Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Italy to attend G7 Outreach Summit. We'll focus on AI, energy, Africa and the Mediterranean, apart from issues crucial for the global south. G7 Summit kickstarts in Italy. Centerpiece of the opening day of summit is deal on using interest from frozen Russian assets to provide $50 billion loan to Ukraine. US President Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy signed 10-year defense deal at G7 summit. Zelenskyy hails pact as a bridge to NATO membership. Special IAF plane carrying mortal remains of 45 Indians killed in Kuwait building fire to arrive in southern Indian city of Kochi today. With an aim to address critical issues affecting the global south, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi touched down at Brindisi Airport in Puglia, Italy on June 14. India, represented by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is participating as an outreach country to discuss global south concerns and bilateral cooperation. It will be an opportunity to bring greater synergy between the outcomes of G20 summit held under India's presidency. This is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first foreign trip since he took oath as Prime Minister in third term. This is the seventh time that Italy hosts the G7. Here's an exclusive report from DD India's Amritpal Singh from Italy on G7 summit.
Member of the G7 but is invited as a partner country. This is the 11th time that India has been invited. The Prime Minister's attendance will be the 5th consecutive attendance in his first overseas visit after assuming office during his third term. The Prime Minister is expected to address an outreach session of the G7 summit where he could touch upon issues related to artificial intelligence, cooperation in the Mediterranean and with the African continent, as also energy security. The Prime Minister could raise the issue of counter-terrorism in his address. The Prime Minister shall also be holding bilateral meetings with his counterparts, both from the G7 countries as well as the G7 partner countries. There are 12 partner countries that have been invited by Prime Minister Meloni for the Italy summit of G7. Prime Minister, during its meetings, bilateral meetings with his counterparts, especially with the Italian Prime Minister, would like to review the entire gamut of the relationship, be it in the sectors of defense, IT, pharmaceuticals, people-to-people contact, or even textiles and pharmaceuticals. He will also meet with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Interestingly, he shall be holding a bilateral meeting with President Zelenskyy of Ukraine, who has been invited by Giorgia Meloni. Prime Minister Meloni has been stressing that G7 must come together to deal with the conflict of Russia-Ukraine, which is dominating the agenda here at the G7 summit. Prime Minister Modi could once again reiterate the Indian position that the solution to the conflict can only be found through dialogue and diplomacy and not through military victory. He shall also meet with the French President Emmanuel Macron, as also he could meet his counterparts from the other G7 partner countries. With cameraman Shirinder Chauhan, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Puglia, Italy.
In Asia, in the southern region of Puglia on Thursday for the annual summit. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni received global leaders including UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, US President Joe Biden, French President Emmanuel Macron and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, among others, for the 50th G7 summit. The G7 comprises the United States, Japan, Canada, Germany, France, Italy and Britain. The European Union participates in all discussions and is represented by the presidents of both the European Council and the European Commission. The host country traditionally invites outside guests to join some of the sessions. Pope Francis, the King of Jordan, as well as the leaders of Ukraine, India, Brazil, Argentina, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, Kenya, Algeria, Tunisia and Mauritania, which holds the presidency of the African Union, will attend the 50th G7 summit this year. On the opening day, the G7 reached a deal to provide around $50 billion in loans for Ukraine using the upcoming profits of frozen Russian assets. DD India's Giles Gibson reports from the Italian city of Bari.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is amongst the high-profile guests taking part in day 2 of this summit in southern Italy, alongside Pope Francis, who's made the trip down south from the Vatican to take part in a special session on artificial intelligence. We're also going to see guests including the Argentinian President Javier Milei, the Turkish leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan, as well as the heads of international organizations such as the World Bank. Really, arguably the most watched guest on day 1 of this summit was the Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelenskyy, who signed deals with the US and Japan, long-term security agreements, as well as calling on the G7 to provide much more financial support going forward for his country, saying that there should be a Marshall Plan for Ukraine, comparing Ukraine's recovery to the massive amounts of aid that the US provided to Europe in the wake of the Second World War. Meanwhile, the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, at the end of the first day of the summit, announced that a political deal had been reached in terms of providing a $50 billion loan to Ukraine using the profits, the future profits, of frozen Russian assets in the West. This is an agreement that has taken months to broker amongst the G7 nations in terms of its legal structure across multiple jurisdictions. And in the coming weeks, officials from the G7 nations will also have to thrash out the details in terms of legally, technically, how it's going to work. But Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, was clear that the aim is to get the funds to Ukraine by the end of this year. In Bari, Giles Gibson reporting for DD India.
US President Joe Biden and Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy signed a 10-year bilateral security agreement on Thursday aimed at bolstering Ukraine's defense against Russia's attack. The deal, signed on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Italy, aims to commit future US administrations to support Ukraine. The US-Ukraine security deal is a framework for a long-term effort to help develop Ukraine's outdated armed forces and serve as a step towards Ukraine's eventual NATO membership.
President Zelenskyy and I have just now signed that agreement between the United States and Ukraine. Our goal is to strengthen Ukraine's credible defense and deterrence capabilities for the long term. The United States is going to help ensure that Ukraine can do both, not by sending American troops to fight in Ukraine, but by providing weapons and ammunition, expanding intelligence sharing, continuing to train brave Ukrainian troops at bases in Europe and the United States, enhancing interoperability between our militaries in line with NATO standards, investing in Ukraine's defense industrial base, so in time, they can supply their own weapons and munitions.
Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy called the agreement historic, saying it's a bridge toward Ukraine's eventual NATO membership.
Today is a truly historic day, and we have signed the strongest agreement between Ukraine and the US since our independence. And this is something that will not only provide security, but also new good jobs for Ukrainians and Americans. The issue of NATO is covered through the text of the agreement. It states that America supports Ukraine's future membership in NATO and recognizes that our security agreement is a bridge to Ukraine's membership in NATO.
NATO's Secretary General is urging members of the military alliance to provide Ukraine with a guaranteed annual aid package. This comes as defense ministers are holding 2 days of meetings as part of the NATO-Ukraine Council. William Denslow reports from Brussels.
Speaking at a press conference at NATO headquarters here in Brussels, Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General for NATO, said that an annual $40 billion or so fund for Ukrainian aid on an annual basis would provide Kiev with predictability and also would provide members with a degree more accountability as well. He said that some member states in the past had promised funding but had struggled to deliver. One prominent example is when an aid package of roughly $61 billion was held up in the US Congress for a number of months. Jens Stoltenberg says such delays have real impacts for Ukraine on the battlefield in their fight against Russia. He also says that an annual guaranteed fee would also send a very clear message to Vladimir Putin in the Kremlin that NATO's allies and Ukraine are willing to stay in the fight for as long as it takes, and they will win a war of attrition. When it comes to paying for this roughly $40 billion annual fund, well, Stoltenberg says that it will be taken into account of a country's gross domestic product, its GDP. He said that because the US is the largest country economically, it would foot around 50% of the bill. One significant hurdle that appears to be overcome by NATO Secretary General this week. He was in Budapest in the Hungarian capital. He met Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who has been incredibly sceptical of assistance for Ukraine going forward. Stoltenberg says, however, that while Viktor Orban and Hungary will not participate in this annual funding package, it will, however, not use its power of a veto on this topic. Jens Stoltenberg says there's still much work to be done when it comes to securing commitments from NATO allies, but he is hoping to commit to these long-term goals for Ukraine as we head closer to a major NATO summit scheduled in Washington, D.C. in July. William Denslow in Brussels reporting for DD India.
The United Nations Security Council has called for an immediate halt to the siege of Al-Fashir by the Rapid Support Forces and an end to all fighting in the area. The Council's resolution also demands the withdrawal of fighters threatening civilian safety. The 15-member council adopted a British-drafted resolution that also calls for the withdrawal of all fighters who threaten the safety and security of civilians in Al-Fashir. War erupted in Sudan in April last year between the Sudanese army and the RSF, triggering the world's largest displacement crisis. The ongoing war in Sudan has resulted in a major displacement crisis. The British drafted resolution received 14 votes in favor, while Russia abstained. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Donald Trump returns to Capitol Hill, a first since January 2021 riots. 7th Parliament of South Africa ready for first sitting. Record low may see ice rings alarm bells for Canada's Hudson Bay polar bears.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour, I'm Prasar Bharati. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has returned to Capitol Hill to meet Republicans in his first visit since the riot by supporters of his at Congress 3 years ago. The presumptive Republican nominee in November's presidential election delivered a message of unity, promising to work out any lingering differences within the party. The visit comes a fortnight after Trump's criminal conviction for falsifying business records in his hush money trial in New York. Former President Trump, the party's 2024 candidate, met with Republican lawmakers to build unity ahead of November 5 election, which could hand his party control of the White House and both chambers of Congress. Republicans hope to see Trump defeat Biden, extend their current razor-thin 22 to 18 to 13 majority in the House, and take control of a Senate that Democrats currently lead 51-49. US President Joe Biden reiterated on Thursday that he would not pardon his son Hunter, who was convicted this week of lying about his drug use to buy a gun in 2018. Biden made the comments during a press conference alongside Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy on the sidelines of G7 summit in Italy. On June 11, a 12-member jury convicted Biden's son Hunter Biden of lying about his drug use to illegally buy a gun in 2018, making him the first child of a sitting US president to be convicted of a crime.
With regard to the question regarding the family, I'm extremely proud of my son Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know, and I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Left-leaning political parties in France sealed an alliance to join forces in the upcoming legislative election after President Emmanuel Macron stunned the country by dissolving the lower house of parliament and calling snap elections. Political parties representing the French left wing said on Thursday they had reached an agreement to form a popular front to contest the snap parliamentary election, which will be held over the coming month. This united left-wing Popular Front is set to go head-to-head against the far-right's National Rally, while President Emmanuel Macron's camp is currently struggling to make headway against the two blocs. The UK's opposition Labour Party has set out its manifesto ahead of the July 4th general election. The governing Conservatives accuse Labour of setting a tax trap. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservatives unveiled their manifesto on Tuesday, and DD India's Ollie Barrett compares the two.
There are certainly differences between the manifestos of the two major parties. The Labour Party acknowledges that it is going to put up taxes in some areas, for example, extending windfall taxes on oil and gas companies' profits to pay for some of its spending pledges. The Conservatives, in their manifesto, did announce a cut to the national insurance earnings tax, and they accuse Labour of considering and planning to potentially put up taxes if they get into government. That is a characterisation that the Labour Party would deny, but there is certainly a difference between the two parties on taxation policy. When it comes to migration, both parties are pledging to bring down net migration, but in different ways. The Labour Party says that it would scrap the government's planned Rwanda migration scheme. The Conservatives say that they would get planes to Rwanda up into the air after July the 4th with migrants on them to pursue their asylum claims in Rwanda and not in the UK. There are other areas of difference as well, but there are quite a lot of ways in which the parties, according to the polling, the electorate feel are actually quite similar and are playing from the centrist position when it comes to this election. All of the polling suggests that the Labour Party are well set to potentially win a large majority on July the 4th, but the Conservatives insist that the fight is still on. Rishi Sunak, the UK Prime Minister, has the opportunity to look like a leader on the international stage as the G7 summit continues in Italy. The downside for him is that it means for a couple of days he's away from the UK campaign trail. Ollie Barrett in London, reporting for DD India.
Reform UK overtakes PM Sunak's Conservatives in opinion poll. Ahead of Britain's election on July 4, Reform UK leader declared his party the opposition to Labour after an opinion poll showed it had overtaken the Conservatives for the first time. The survey, which involved 2,211 participants and was carried out from June 12 to 13, revealed that Reform UK garnered 19% support, a 2% increase from their previous standing, while the Conservatives remained unchanged at 18%.
What I will do, if you give me the honour of being your Member of Parliament, I will stand up and fight for people. I will stand up and fight for small businesses against the regulators. I will stand up and fight for people to get their rights. I will stand up and fight to make sure that schools are not poisoning the minds of your children.
South Africa's first sitting of the National Assembly and National Council of Provinces will be held at the Cape Town International Convention Centre on Friday. The sitting will see members of parliament convening to elect their speaker and deputy speaker and the country's president. Political parties in South Africa are still negotiating to form a government of national unity after the ANC failed to win an outright majority in the general elections. The ANC was holding last-minute talks with other parties on Thursday to thrash out a deal on who will be included in South Africa's next government. President Cyril Ramaphosa, the ANC leader, is expected to win a new term in office, but the composition of the new government remains unclear. Spain and Turkey on Thursday signed 13 agreements in Madrid in the areas of science, energy, professional training and commerce. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan was received at Spain's Moncloa Palace with military honors and held a bilateral meeting with Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez as part of the 8th Spain-Turkey high-level meeting. The leaders signed a series of agreements and held a press conference after the meeting was over. The bilateral summit was focused on strengthening economic cooperation between the Mediterranean countries. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan hailed Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez for his stance on Gaza conflict. Speaking about Gaza, Sanchez said both Turkey and Spain agreed on the immediate need for a ceasefire. Now, to protest against incarceration, conditions and delays in reviews of judicial processes, inmates in at least 16 Venezuelan prisons are staging hunger strikes. Overcrowding, poor health conditions and food scarcity are among the issues plaguing Venezuelan prisons. President Nicolas Maduro on Tuesday replaced the country's head of the penitentiary affairs, appointing Julio Zerpa in the midst of the strikes. The US Supreme Court has unanimously rejected an effort to restrict access to the abortion pill mifepristone. The decision, which came 2 years after the court rescinded the nationwide guarantee to an abortion, was welcomed by pro-choice activists. The justices decided the plaintiffs, a group of anti-abortion doctors and activists, did not have a legal right to sue, but they left the door open to other attempts to limit the availability of the drug. Mifepristone is one of 2 drugs used in a medication abortion, now the most common method of terminating pregnancies in the US. And dozens of demonstrators took to the streets of Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo on Thursday to protest against a controversial bill that equates the legal abortion to murder. Brazil's Chamber of Deputies approved this week to urgently process a bill that equates legal abortion to homicide if the termination is performed after the 22nd week of gestation. In Sao Paulo, demonstrators demand government to abandon the bill, while in Rio de Janeiro, pro-abortion activists protested outside the Congress. In Brazil, abortion is currently permitted only in cases of rape or danger to mother's life. The bill provides for prison sentences of between 6 and 20 years of women who undergo a legal abortion after the 22nd week. The current penalty for an illegal termination of pregnancy ranges from 1 to 3 years. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said on Thursday that democracy was at risk after far-right surge in EU vote. Addressing an event of the International Labour Organization event in Geneva, Lula said that we have a problem of democracy as we know it being at risk. Lula also reaffirmed Brazil's commitment to completely halt deforestation in the Amazon by 2030. Weather updates now from across the globe. Cleanup work began across southeastern Florida after storms and floods ravaged the region. Heavy precipitation dumped rainwater of up to 18 to 25 inches of rain since Monday. The weather authorities predicts of more torrential downpours to deluge South Florida. Areas including portions of Broward and Miami have been put at risk of life-threatening flooding. Central and southern Chile continues to grapple with heavy floods that has left over 4,000 people homeless. Residents are reeling with the aftermath of the downpour as they continue to clean the mud from their homes. Government's disaster office has evacuated hundreds of people from buildings near the shore. Torrential downpours transformed roads into waterways in Spain's Murcia. The heavy rainfall, which lasted for several hours, overwhelmed drainage systems, leading to significant flooding in the region. Planes were grounded on flooded runways at the airport of the capital of the Spanish island as heavy rain swept over the popular tourist destination. At least 4 people died in a landslide triggered by incessant rainfall in eastern Nepal. Torrential rains along with unabated construction have frequently triggered deadly flash floods and landslides in Nepal. Efforts are also underway to assess the extent of the damage and to provide relief. Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. The wreckage of a private plane that carried 5 men in 1971 disappeared after taking off in poor weather conditions has been found in Vermont's Lake Champlain. Families of the victims hope the discovery will finally bring closure after decades of uncertainty. Under current climate warming scenarios, polar bears in Canada could face further starvation and eventual extinction in the coming decades. 3 of the world's remaining 19 polar bear populations live in Canada's vast Hudson Bay, which connects to the Arctic and Atlantic Oceans. Authorities worry that current climate crisis could affect the habitat of extincting species. China's captive giant pandas return to the wild. The National Forestry says these reserves are effectively protecting over 60% of wild giant panda populations, and these reintroductions are part of broader strategy to boost the wild panda population and enhance genetic diversity. Madame Tussauds London prepares the wax figure of famous actor Nsuti Gatwa. The process of creating the wax figure involves taking hundreds of precise measurements to ensure an accurate representation. Gatwa's wax figure to unveil at Madame Tussauds in London this summer. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Search operations continue in Jammu and Kashmir to hunt down terrorists. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to review the preparedness of Indian Navy's Eastern Fleet. And a social group in India's Raipur creates a mini forest. Stay tuned for more details.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Prasar Bharati and a quick recap of headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Italy to attend G7 Outreach Summit. Will focus on AI, energy, Africa and the Mediterranean, apart from issues crucial for the Global South. G7 Summit kickstarts in Italy. Centerpiece of the opening day of summit is deal on using interest from frozen Russian assets to provide $50 billion loan to Ukraine. US President Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy signed 10-year defense deal at G7 summit. Zelenskyy hails pact as a bridge to NATO membership. Special IF plane carrying mortal remains of 45 Indians killed in Kuwait building fire to arrive in southern Indian city of Kochi today. An Indian Air Force special aircraft carrying the mortal remains of 45 nationals who lost their lives in the tragic fire incident in Kuwait will arrive in southern Indian city of Kochi today. Accompanying the remains is Minister of State External Affairs Kirti Vardhan Singh, who worked closely with Kuwaiti authorities to ensure the swift repatriation process. The Indian minister on Thursday visited hospital in Kuwait and checked about the well-being of Indians who were injured in the tragic fire incident. Later, the minister met Health Minister of Kuwait and Deputy Prime Minister, discussing the steps taken to ensure speedy recovery of Indians under his personal supervision. MOS thanked them for exceptional medical care and attention being provided to the Indians. The mortal remains would be handed over to concerned state government representatives in Kochi and Delhi. The aircraft carrying mortal remains of deceased will first land in Kochi, as most of victims are from Kerala, before proceeding to Delhi for the victims from northern states. Among the victims, 23 were from Kerala, with others hailing from Tamil Nadu, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. Kuwaiti authorities have already conducted DNA tests on the bodies as part of the identification process. Kerala government has arranged ambulances to transport the mortal remains to their respective homes upon arrival.
We made all the required arrangements for receiving the bodies of the victims, and we have arranged the required number of ambulances, and the ambulances will be piloted to their destinations with a proper police unit.
All right, NDD India correspondent Ajay Joy joins us from Thiruvananthapuram. Ajay, a very good morning to you. Indian Air Force special aircraft carrying the mortal remains of 45 nationals in Kuwait is expected to arrive soon in Kochi. What details are you getting for us?
Yes, Siddharth. The special Air Force flight will arrive any time right now. All 45 identified victims are being taken back. Their mortal remains are being taken back. Out of the 45, 31 mortal remains will be handed over to authorities in Kochi. Among these, 23 are from Kerala, 7 from Tamil Nadu, and 1 from Karnataka. Back in the airport, Union Minister of State Suresh Gopi is already there. Chief Minister of the State Pinarayi Vijayan and other ministers, along with senior bureaucrats of the state, are already in the airport to receive. Arrangements are all made at the airport for offering public homage to the deceased people. And ambulances are all set. Kerala government has arranged 23 ambulances for the victims from Kerala. Tamil Nadu has sent ambulances to take their deceased people. And Norca has arranged more ambulances, if required, for the other state as well. Right now, all preparations are going on right now in Cochin Airport, and very soon the mortal remains will be taken to their respective homes. And it's a very tragic day for South India, and especially the state of Kerala, being a diaspora. Kerala, especially considering that diaspora has a very sizable proportion in Kerala's population, and this is the saddest moment in its diaspora history.
Ajay, certainly it's not just a tragic day for Kerala, it's a tragic day for the entire country. It was certainly a tragic incident. No one would have thought of it. And it's a very difficult time for family members. Ajay, did you have a word with any of the family members?
Yeah, I could speak to one or two families right now, and many of them. I could speak with one family who was about to return after ending his almost 30 years long diaspora life, actually. So he was about to return back. And among the victims, there were some people who had gone just 2 weeks before. Means they were here in Kerala doing other works, and they could manage an opportunity in Kuwait just 2 weeks before. So incidents, such very harrowing experiences we could hear from their families. And now all arrangements are being made to for their final rites.
All right.
The funerals, most of them will be taking place today afternoon, and at all their houses, public leaders have visited. Most of the public personalities will be with their families, considering the fact that this is one of the most tragic moments.
Definitely, Ajay. It's a very tragic incident. Very tragic what took place. Thank you for all your details, and we'll keep taking updates from you. Thank you so much as of now.
Thank you.
India rejected unwarranted references to Jammu and Kashmir in a recent joint statement by China and Pakistan. India criticized the mention of projects under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor in the statement on Thursday and said New Delhi rejects any move to legitimize Islamabad's illegal occupation of territory. In response to media queries, Ministry of External Affairs stated that we have noted unwarranted references to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir in the joint statement between China and Pakistan of 7th of June 2024. We categorically reject such references. Our position on the issue is consistent and well known to the concerned parties. The Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and the Union Territory of Ladakh have been, are, and will always remain integral and inalienable parts of India. No other country has the locus standi to comment on the same. The search operation launched in Jammu and Kashmir to track down and neutralize terrorists after the June 9 attack on a bus carrying pilgrims entered the 6th day on Friday. Terrorists struck at 4 places in Riyasi, Kathua and Doda districts over the past few days, killing 9 pilgrims and a CRPF Jawan and leaving 7 security personnel and several others injured. 2 suspected Pakistani terrorists were also killed in an encounter with security forces in Kathua, and a large quantity of arms and ammunition were recovered from them. Meanwhile, the search operation is underway in Riyasi as well as adjoining Rajouri district. Searches are also being conducted in Naushera in Rajouri and adjoining Poonch. Security forces have also been put on alert in Kathua, Samba and Jammu districts in view of intelligence inputs about a possible terror threat. Police security tightened in Jammu and Kashmir after terror attack. Police conducted thorough vehicle checks by halting vehicles. Security has been increased following the 3 significant attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. The Riyasi terror attack. To further enhancing maritime security, India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to visit Visakhapatnam today. On his visit, Defence Minister will review the preparedness of Indian Navy's Eastern Fleet. The Eastern Fleet is naval fleet of the Indian Navy. It is known as the sword arm of the Eastern Naval Command and called the Sunrise Fleet. It is headquartered at Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh on the east coast of India. Well, the elections for the appointment of the new Lok Sabha Speaker will take place on June 26, 2 days after the beginning of the new Parliament session. The 18th Lok Sabha session will begin on June 24. This will be the first Lok Sabha session for the newly elected MPs after the 2024 general elections. President Draupadi Murmu will address a joint session of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha on June 27 after the appointment of the new Speaker. Her address is expected to focus on the likely roadmap of the government for the next 5 years. In Uttarakhand, 4 firefighters lost their lives and 4 others sustained serious injuries while battling a fierce blaze in Almora district on Thursday. The incident took place on Thursday when a forest department vehicle caught fire in the Binsar Wildlife Sanctuary, Almora, around 3:30 p.m. 4 of them died before they could jump out of the vehicle while others got injured. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami announced an ex gratia of 10 lakh rupees to the families of deceased. Meanwhile, Indian Air Force Mi-17 V5 helicopters leapt into action today, taking off from Sarsava at first light to undertake Bambi bucket operations to extinguish the blazing fires in Almora district. The Air Force helicopter airlifted water from Bhimtal in Nainital district to combat the forest fire. This comes after the state administration's request for dousing the uncontrollable fire at the Binsar Wildlife Sanctuary at Almora on Thursday. Fire is spreading rapidly in the forests of Jammu and Kashmir's Udhampur district. The fire that continued for 3 days has caused huge damage. Hundreds of trees have been destroyed in the fire. Efforts to extinguish the fire still continues. In a tragic incident in the national capital, New Delhi, massive fire broke out at the Marwadi Katra market area in Chandni Chowk on Thursday. In order to douse the flames, around 40 fire tenders are still engaged in dousing the fire. All right, the highly anticipated 18th edition of the Mumbai International Film Festival is all set to dazzle audiences with a stellar lineup of documentary, short fiction and animation films from around the world. Hosted in the bustling city of Mumbai, known as the heart of Indian cinema, this prestigious event is a celebration of creativity, diversity and cinematic excellence. Apart from its main venue in Mumbai this time, MIFF screenings will also be held in Delhi, Chennai, Pune and Kolkata. The film festival will start from June 15 to June 21st, 2024. Shishir Silar reports.
A premier international event in the documentary film world, the Mumbai International Film Festival would start from 15 June to 21st June 2024 at the National Film Development Corporation campus in South Mumbai. The Mumbai International Film Festival is held once in 2 years since its inception in 1990. In this edition, the organizers received a record number of 1,018 films from 59 countries and across 61 languages. A total of 102 films have been selected by the 3 selection committees comprising eminent film experts for the international and national competition sections, along with 16 films in the MIFF prism. The 2024 edition will open with the screening of National Geographic documentary Billy and Molly, An Otter Love Story. There will also be 8 world premieres, international premieres, 17 Asia premieres and 15 Indian premieres during the film gala, where special packages have also been curated. A special country-focused package will also put spotlight on collaborations with 7 countries: Russia, Japan, Belarus, Italy, Iran, Vietnam and Mali. The 18th MIFF will host 20 masterclasses in conversations and panel discussions with industry luminaries such as filmmakers Santosh Sivan, Audrey Astonis, Ketan Mehta, Richie Mehta and many more. In this edition, a doc film bazaar is also being organized for the very first time to boost the film production by providing a platform to filmmakers to find buyers, sponsors and collaborators for their projects. Besides these opportunities for selected projects, there will also be an open buyer-seller meet, which will help filmmakers collaborate with buyers and corporates in the realm of production, syndication, acquisition, distribution, and sales. Mumbai International Film Festival provides a platform for documentary filmmakers from all over the world to meet, exchange ideas, explore the possibilities of co-production and marketing of documentary, short and animation films, and also broaden the vision of filmmakers vis-a-vis world cinema. This unique blend of entertainment and education makes the Mumbai International Film Festival a must-attend event for anyone passionate about cinema. With its commitment to excellence, diversity, and creative expression, the festival is sure to continue its legacy, showcasing the best of non-fiction films and celebrating the art of storytelling on the big screen.
And let's take a look at other stories making news. Registration for the Amarnath Yatra officially starts in Jammu and Kashmir, marking the beginning of preparations for one of India's most revered annual pilgrimages. Authorities have implemented a streamlined registration process this year, utilizing both online and offline methods to accommodate applicants. Devotees from across the region enrolls to undertake this sacred journey to the Amarnath. A social group in India's Raipur creates a mini forest using the Miyawaki concept that provides 30% more oxygen and also functions as an air purifier, helping to boost biodiversity in the region. There are 2,500 different types of trees in the mini forest. In response to the increasing threat of heat waves and extreme heat, the Kutch Forest Department has initiated special measures to protect wildlife in Gujarat's dense forests. The department has installed additional water troughs and regularly refills natural and artificial water bodies to ensure that animals have constant access to hydration. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Celebrating a timeless practice of yoga that celebrates oneness and harmony. Tesla shareholders approved CEO Elon Musk's $56 billion pay package. Bangladesh beat Netherlands by 25 runs in Group D T20 World Cup match on Thursday. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and now to all the updates on the International Yoga Day, which will be celebrated on 21st of June. In a week from now, the world will mark 10th International Day of Yoga, celebrating a timeless practice that celebrates oneness and harmony. India's PM Modi shared a video on his X handle that offers guidance of Trikonasana for improved shoulders, back and improving concentration.
Trikonasana. This asana is called so because while doing this, our body parts, namely the hands, legs and backbone, form the shape of a triangle. To perform this asana, please stand straight. Spread your legs at a comfortable distance from each other. Slowly raise your arms so that they are in line with both your shoulders. Please ensure that your arms are straight and leveled, not above or below, nor in front or behind each other. Keeping your left foot straight, turn your right foot at an angle of 90 degrees. Take a long, deep breath. And now, exhaling, slowly bend your body towards the right from your hip. Try to touch your right ankle with your right hand and raise your left hand up towards the sky. It is possible that some of you may find it difficult to touch your ankle. In that case, extend your hand as far as you comfortably can. Stay relaxed in this position for a while. Breathe in normally and breathe out. Feel your whole body relaxing. Inhaling slowly, come back to your upright position. And straighten your right foot. Next, turn your left foot out and repeat the same asana on your left side. This asana is very simple and useful. It strengthens the back muscles and prevents the occurrence of flat foot. It makes your thighs, shoulders, chest, and spinal cord strong and flexible. But if you have an injury to your neck or back, or are suffering from slip disc or sciatica, please do not perform this asana. When you take in long, deep breaths and exhale, it helps you to remain mentally calm, relaxed, and tension-free.
And with a week left for the celebration of International Yoga Day, the High Commission of India and Sri Lanka's Eastern Province Tourism Bureau organized a mega yoga event on Friday. The event saw participation by around 5,000 students and members of the society. Governor of Eastern Province, Senthil Thondaman, thanked Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for making yoga popular worldwide. The event is part of 10-day-long Yoga Mahotsav, which will end on 22nd of June in Colombo.
This is the largest yoga gathering in Sri Lanka. So I would also like to thank the Indian Prime Minister, Honorable Narendra Modi, for making sure that this practice is being internationally recognized and spread all over the world.
You're watching DD India News. Time now for business. Tesla shareholders they have voted to reinstate CEO Elon Musk's pay package worth up to $56 billion. It's the largest pay deal in corporate US history, but was struck down by a judge in January, citing its size. Tony Waterman has more from outside the Tesla Gigafactory in Austin, where the vote took place, on what it could mean for India.
As you'd imagine, Elon Musk had a lot of pep in his step when he took the stage at the shareholders meeting held at the Gigafactory right here behind me. He told the crowd that he loved them, and he said that he could grow the company tenfold again, which is an amazing feat and part of the reason why he was eligible for this record-breaking payout. This vote was really a vindication for Musk, who has been battling in the courts to get his due. A judge in Delaware threw out the deal in January. She called it unfathomable, and she also raised concerns about the independence of Tesla's board, which struck the deal with Musk back in 2018. Now, even though shareholders have given their blessing, it does not mean that Musk will automatically get the Tesla shares owed to him. His legal team will first need to convince that very skeptical Delaware judge that nullified the deal to reinstate it. So it could be many, many more months before Musk can exercise the stock options in this deal, if at all. What the vote does do, though, is that it gives Musk a mandate, a permission slip to continue to lead the company the way he sees fit. And he has made it very clear that, at least in part, Tesla's future lies in India. He's been pushing aggressively to expand in the country as sales slump in China. And there have been reports that Tesla could, among other things, invest upwards of $3 billion in a new factory in India. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
You're watching DD India News. Time now for sport. And Sri Lanka have been eliminated from the Super 8 stage after Bangladesh beat Netherlands by 25 runs in a crucial Group D T20 World Cup match on Thursday. Bangladesh were boosted by Shakib Al Hasan's unbeaten 64 to set a 160-run target for the Netherlands. In reply, the Dutch managed 134 for 8 in 20 overs. Bangladesh's win over Netherlands saw them reach 4 points from 3 matches in Group D. Sri Lanka, on 1 point after 3 games, can at best reach 3 points. Meanwhile, South Africa have already advanced from the same group. The Olympic flame reached the island of Tahiti on Thursday as the Olympic torch relay dazzled onlookers at the beach that will be hosting Olympic surfing events for Paris 2024 Games. The flame was carried by boat to the surf spot where Olympic surfers will compete for gold when the Summer Games kick off in July. The Hue Festival's closing music night occurred in a jubilant and youthful atmosphere. The art show gave the audience impressive performances embodying the desire for world peace, cooperation and friendship between people worldwide. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.